Um, Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel.
Are you filming me?
It finally runs. Oh! What's up guys? Haven't done a video in a while. Wanted to update you on the car. Got a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of drama. You'd think this thing would be on the track already, but we had some issues. Designing a new induction system for it too, and then I'm also putting a fat deposit on something pretty cool. I'm not going to tell you about, but you can guess. I haven't seen a video in a while, but back in October of last year, we actually had this thing running. It was on the dyno, and then some things happened that I will say maybe were some poor choices by who was operating the car, but then yeah, so we had to basically have the head motor all rebuilt, and now we're doing a VTEC killer setup. So now there is no more VTEC, which is kind of sacrilege, but anyway, so it's back going. I'm working with a new tuner. We just got it running last week, and I was actually able to pull it out and drive around the neighborhood and wash it up, so let's throw some B-roll in there on that. So the engine, like I said, we had to rebuild the entire thing. So I sent it back to 4-piston, and they actually put their the Ferrea version 2 rocker arms in this thing. So now it has aluminum rocker arms, which may sound cool, but I'm actually quite nervous about it because aluminum is usually used for drag racing. Aluminum fatigue life is much shorter than steel, so it basically becomes a wear item. So it's going to be something I'm going to have to really keep an eye on, and then possibly replace at some sort of interval. But when we had it on the dyno back in October, it was just shy of 250 wheel horsepower, and it made peak power at like 9,980 or something like that. So she makes power all the way up to 10 grand, which is kind of what we estimated when we originally spec'd this build out. I was hoping it'd make a little bit more wheel horsepower, but maybe with the VTEC killer setup and this induction system I'm designing, it'll make a little bit more. Because one thing we did notice on the dyno is it did have pretty high intake air temperatures, and you know, I'm just running the sausage filter from ITG on there currently, which I knew that this was a temporary thing entirely, because I knew it was going to be high intake temps just because it's pulling air right from the engine basically. So that's why I'm working on a new induction system. It's going to be pretty sweet. I'm kind of modeling it after the factory system, and then taking some, I guess, performance stuff from so Tota's, I kind of got the dimensions off of Tota's induction box, and then I just scaled them up a little bit for a little higher volume air movement basically. So I think the Tota has an inlet that is 90 millimeters, so we went with a full 4-inch, which is basically 100 millimeters. So then I'm going to have an air filter box similar to the factory setup right here, but I'm going to use a different cone filter, which I have. I'll show you in there. And then I'm going to do a ram air headlight delete. So it's going to come in here. It's going to be a 4.5-inch tube feeding the air filter box, and then from there it'll be a 4-inch tube going into the induction box. And so the way I kind of calculated all that stuff was just airflow. So I looked at the factory system, and I wanted my system to be able to make 50% more power, so over 300 horsepower. So basically the minimum cross-sectional areas that the factory system had, like on the filter box, I basically just increased that by 50% or slightly more actually. So plus it should have a ram air effect. I don't know how effective that stuff actually is. It might be more marketing than actual horsepower producing, but I'm sure it can't hurt. So here's the filter I'm going to be using. So it's a big guy. I'll probably actually trim some of this flange off, but it's a big 4-inch hole, so it's much bigger than the factory, 62-inch or whatever, or 62 millimeter. went with the carbon one just because when in Rome, you know. But it's a, I forget what they call it, but it sucks in air this way and this way, which will be nice for the way the air box will be set up. But yeah, this is the factory filter. Like, man, it's actually a really big filter. Like, I couldn't find too many aftermarket filters that are bigger than that one. So this is about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger considering this surface area. But yeah, so this should flow quite well for this application. So anyway, there's the filter. We're going full pre-preg professional mold here. This is machined out of 6061 aluminum. Like I said, she's a pretty big guy. I think it was like 9.6 liter volume. So again, I'm not an engine designer, but the rule of thumb I've heard was, I think, 4 times the engine displacement. So this should be perfect. It's a little bit bigger than my engine since it's only a 2.1, but it should be perfect for people with the standard 2.4, 2.5 strokers. So anyway, that's the mold. I'm working on cleaning up the edges and stuff, and then I'm actually trying to purchase the stuff to do it myself at home, but it's going to take a while, so I'm actually going to have the first couple made maybe in Indianapolis, because that's the only place I can find that does composites specifically for cars. Not that it has to be specifically for cars, but it's the closest place I found. So anyway, there's the mold. This was a freaking expensive chunk of aluminum, 2 chunks I guess. It's a split mold, so it'll come apart like this. But yeah, super cool. My friend Super Dave helped me out a lot on that, so I actually pretty much did the whole thing. Did a bit of sanding. Probably should need a little more, but it's got to go to Indy.